Hey y'all, I'm about to submit the last set of notes on the Theme 4, which includes the endocrine system, the lymphatic immune system, and the nervous system. The whole topic is communication and control. So this is the last set of notes. It's going to be a general overview of the nervous system. Hopefully you've already got your specific brain notes done. And I'll be posting a test review Wednesday, tomorrow, and then the test is going to open up like midnight Thursday, and then it's going to last until midnight Friday. So you're going to have like a 48-hour window to take that Theme 4 test. You'll be timed about a minute and a half or so per question, so it should be more than enough time. You're only going to have one opportunity to take it, and you've got that 48-hour window to take it as well. So make sure you get on top of that. The tests are going to be worth more points than these general submissions. They've been worth 20 points. The test will be worth 100. Okay, but be on the lookout for those that test review, and be on the lookout for the test submission itself. All right, so here we go. This is our how I think you should arrange your paper. Oop, switch it. There we go. So if you take a piece of paper and oops, sorry, what did I do? No, if you take a piece of paper, and you're going to write the nervous system up at the top, and we're going to draw a little bit of a flow chart up here. It kind of shows how the nervous system can be broken up into subcomponents. And you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes down here of about equal size. It doesn't have to be exact. Those of you who write big, you may want to wait to draw this line before you divide everything else out, because experience has shown me that some of you write too big to fit the flow chart in this little space here. Okay, so let's start off with that. This is the nervous system. I'm just going to zoom in for you. So the nervous system can be busted into two major components. One is called the central nervous system. I'm just going to abbreviate nervous system with N period, S period the whole time, instead of rewriting nervous system out the whole time. Okay. So here we are, the central nervous system. And let's just stay over here. Okay, so the central nervous system can be busted up into the brain, which I've already talked to you about in the last set of notes. Hopefully you got those, and you looked at the 4 lobes and all the cortical regions found within those. Make sure you know what all those different areas do for your exam. And then the spinal cord. Now the spinal cord attaches to the brainstem. You should know that the brainstem provides us with our most essential life functions, things like heart rate, breathing, and digestion. That was from the last set that I gave you all. And then the brainstem is attached to the spinal cord. So the brainstem is the kind of the middleman between the brain and the spinal cord. And so all the information, all the processing that happens here and gets sent out to the spinal cord, or information that gets sent in from the body to the brain, coalesces along the spinal cord and goes up to the brain. Okay, so the other part, or the other half of the nervous system, can be called the peripheral nervous system. So peripheral is a word that you may be familiar with. If you think about your peripheral vision, if you get something, you've got your peripheral vision, you've got your main side of vision, and then you've got your peripheral vision, which is everything kind of out to the side. So that's lateral, all the lateral stuff. So the peripheral nervous system includes your nerves. These are all the nerves that go out to your body. So you mostly are either sensory or motor nerves. So these are either nerves that are traveling out from the brain to tell the body, like the glands or the muscles, to do different things, or they're sensory nerves that send information from the body back up to the brain, things like in your stomach to tell your brain you're hungry, it's time to eat, or you're in your skin. There's a lot, of course, where you could pick up different types of sensory information like touch and pain and temperature. Okay, so the peripheral nervous system can be busted up into different parts as well. I'm going to draw this line way over here, and this one's going to be kind of just right there. So the peripheral nervous system can be busted up into different parts. One of them is called the autonomic nervous system. You might be able to guess what that means just from the name, what the autonomic nervous system does. The autonomic system is something that happens automatically. You don't have to think about it. The body just does this. The brain does it on its own without you having to think about what's going on there. Okay, so this regulates your internal organs. Things like your heart, diaphragm controlling your breathing, your digestion, your stomach, things like that. Things that you don't have to think about doing. And then it also controls glands, which of course you should know are from the endocrine system. The glands, so important. Regulating every single aspect of your life. Everything that you do is regulated by hormones that are of course controlled by your nervous system. So who's really in charge? I don't know. Nervous system, endocrine system, they're in cahoots. This tells everything to do everything, but this tells these what to do. Of course, these are telling this when it's time to do them, so who's very much both large and in charge. Okay, so our autonomic nervous system can be busted up into two main components, too. So changing colors again here, see? So I'm going to draw a line out here. And we have what is called the sympathetic division. That's a Y. Okay, this is part of your autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic division. And the sympathetic division is responsible for a condition that we call arousing. Okay, this is part of, as the name implies, part of our what's called circadian rhythms. So this is like a circadian rhythm is something that happens on a 24-hour cycle for us, day and night cycle. So this is the one that you know tells you it's time to get up and get going. It's also the one that is responsible for your fight or flight response. So if you get really scared and it's time to run away, or if it's time to you know, buckle down and fight, it's your sympathetic nervous system that regulates that. Okay, the other part of the autonomic nervous system is the parasympathetic division. Parasympathetic division. I'm just going to put a D, because I'm kind of running out of space myself. Okay, the parasympathetic division. And where the sympathetic division is your arousing division, this is your calming division. This is one that produces, you all probably are familiar with, melanin, that causes you to relax, gets you ready for sleepy time. And the parasympathetic division is responsible for that. All right. So now over here we have our somatic nervous system. Soma, or somata, somatic, refers to the body. Okay, so you should probably already know that. This refers to the body. So this is the one that controls our sense organs, like your eyes, your skin. Yeah, see, I went to draw a little thing out here. I didn't give myself space, so probably some of you that write bigger. Okay, and then the skeletal muscle. Squeeze it in there. Yeah, skeletal muscle. Okay, skeletal muscles are the muscles that you think about when you think about muscle. These are the muscles that are attached to your bones and move your body around. And your somatic nervous system controls that. Okay, now the somatic nervous system, like all the others, can be divided into different areas as well. One is sensory. And the other is motor. Motor means movement, so this is information coming in from your sensory structures, and this is the one that is sending information out to your muscles to tell them to move when it's time to. All right, so let's take it way back to theme 1, and let's remember a couple of different pathways. Remember that afferent with an A. Afferent pathways are pathways coming into the control center, into the brain. And then efferent with an E are signals going out of the brain. So here we have through our somatic nervous system, afferent pathways being sent into the brain, into the nervous system, along afferent pathways from our sensory structures. And here we have, through the somatic nervous system, efferent signals going out, or E for efferent, E for exit, along motor pathways to tell your muscles when it's time to move. I can be honest right now, I have done a better job of drawing this flowchart before, so it's a little bit sloppy. Okay, so hopefully you've got that in, and now I just want to zoom back out and show you again how the page should look. Draw you a line under here, divide that in half, and then you're going to divide those into, doesn't have to be exact, roughly 4 equal boxes down here. Okay? What we're going to do in this box is we are going to draw a neuron. N-E-U-R-O-N. We're going to make a sketch of the neuron. Now, the neuron is the cell of the nervous system. It's a nerve cell. Okay, and now cells, you should know, are highly differentiated based on what type, what their function needs to be. So we will draw all the different components of the neuron. And we'll start with this area, or this structure right here. Just make kind of a spiky thing. Doesn't have to be exact. You can have as many of the spikes as you want. You can have 3, 5, 8, I don't care. Okay? This structure is like the body of the cell. It's what's called the soma. The soma is the body of the cell. And now, of course, as I've said, this is a cell, so it does have all the normal things that a cell does. But we'll just draw a nucleus right here inside the soma, because this is where processing happens. This is the control center for the cell, the nucleus. Of course, it's got the other normal things that you find inside a cell too, but we'll just draw the nucleus. All right, now coming off of most of these spikies, okay, don't draw this on every spiky thing, just draw on all of them at one. Okay, save one, probably one of these two if you drew a spike down in this area. Okay, but coming off of all these are structures. You can branch them however you want, just kind of go crazy. These are called dendrites. I'm just going to kind of get one going out there. All right, these are called dendrites. We'll label those. I'll just draw a few. Again, it doesn't matter. One neuron is going to be built slightly than another neuron. May have more or less dendrites. They may be shaped different. It really doesn't matter. It's like my green pen is trying to run out of ink or something. All right, so those are what are called dendrites. So I'll just put a label on those. I don't know, up here, I guess. All right. Now, so a neuron is a communication cell. It is a cell that talks to other neurons or other types of cells that are found inside the body. And the way that they talk to each other is through electrical signaling. It's really important that you know that the signals are electrical. It's really, these are not much different than like an electrical cable that goes, you know, attaches your computer to things, or a power cable, or if you aren't using AirPods and you've got, you know, earbuds that have an electrical cord. It's really the same stuff. But the information only travels one way. Okay? Information, I'm going to draw these as lightning bolts that are arrows. So these only come into the cell. None of these arrows should go out of the cell. This is electrical signal that travels into the cell from either timeout, hold on. I'm recording a video for my students, baby. Give me just a little bit, okay? Sorry about that. Okay, so these are electrical signals, and the information is traveling into the cell. So these are afferent pathways. This might be attached to your skin, picking up temperature. It might be attached to your eyes, sending information to the brain. Either way, that's electrical signal sending information in to the cell itself, aft pathways. Now remember, we saved one of these little spikies. We did that because there is this structure here. I'm just going to kind of draw it long and winding. This is called the axon. Just going to kind of draw a thing like this. Axon. And the axon is also, I'm going to set down my purple pen for now, but I'm going to pick it back up in a minute. Right now I'm going to pick up my blue pen. You can use whatever colors you like. But the axon is the efferent pathway. And the signal needs to be insulated. So what we have all along the axon is, you just draw square dot square is the pattern. Square dot square, or rectangle. Rectangle dot rectangle. All along your axon. And this is what's called the myelin sheath. It's made out of myelin, which is a fatty substance that provides insulation for the axon. Now this is important because some of these axons, even though this is a single cell, it is microscopic. Even though that is true, some of these are up to a meter long. That's like 3 feet, y'all. Isn't that crazy? It's microscopically 3 feet long. Anyway, this signal, I'm going to pick up my pen again, because here we have information only going out. Electrical signals. Now this information, traveling along this efferent pathway, only travels out the cell. And like I said, sometimes it may travel 3 feet. Okay, think about leaving your spinal cord and going all the way out to the tips of your fingers, or from the tips of your fingers to the spinal cord, all up your arm or up your leg. Okay, so these signals are traveling out the axon. I'm going to label my myelin sheath here. It needs to be insulated, or else the signal gets lost. The signal can zip out and get lost in there. In fact, people who suffer from different forms of dementia, things like Alzheimer's, part of what's going on is this myelin sheath starts to break down, and so instead of the signal being confined to this one area, the signals get lost. This is why people who suffer from Alzheimer's start to lose memory and things like that. Very sad, of course. All right. Myelin sheaths, providing insulation. Okay, I'm picking up a black pen. So out here at the end of the axon, it branches as well, kind of like the dendrites. But this is called the axon terminal. It's where the axon terminates. It's the axon terminal. And this will come right up to, but does not touch. That's important. It comes right up to, but does not touch other cells. So I'm just going to say it's attaching to, what should it tell? Let's say it attaches to a muscle cell. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of draw, and we don't have to be specific with this at all. I'll just put some lines in here, make them red so it looks like a muscle. Let's say this is a muscle cell right here. And this axon, or this neuron, is communicating to this muscle cell to tell it to contract. I've intentionally left a space in between there. That space is called the synapse. S-Y-N-A-P-S-E. Now, what happens at synapse, our electrical signal makes it jump and becomes a chemical signal. There are signals that are chemical, stored inside here. Different types of neurotransmitters that are stored inside the axon terminal. And once this electrical signal reaches the end, it changes format and is no longer an electrical signal, becomes a chemical signal. That chemical jumps across the synapse, jumps across this gap, into the neighboring cell. Here, let's label that muscle cell. Remember, it could be any cell, but this I'm just calling a muscle cell. Telling these muscles to contract. And then that would instigate a new electrical signal inside neighboring cell. But remember, no touchy. Doesn't touch. There's a space called the synapse. Okay, now it could be that the neurons are attached to other neurons too. So let's just get my black pen back out. It's important now that we stick with the same color. Whatever color you used for your axon terminal here, let's draw another little axon terminal coming right up to, but not touching, these dendrites. Okay, and then maybe some of them go over here and talk to some different cell. But here we're talking to this cell. And now we'll switch back to the same color that we drew our axon in. I used purple. And I'll just kind of draw an axon going off into wherever. I'll put my myelin sheath on it. So in my little scenario here, I've got this cell that maybe it's somewhere out here, who knows. And it's sending an information. The axon to the axon terminal, where it makes a jump across the synapse, telling this neuron what to do. That information comes along an afferent pathway, gets all processed right here in the soma, and then that information gets sent out the axon to tell this muscle cell to contract. Again, doesn't have to be a muscle cell, it could be any cell in the body. That's what's up. That is a neuron, the cell of the nervous system. Information only comes in through the dendrites and out of the axon. It's electrical until it hits the synapse and becomes a chemical signal. So the way our nervous system talks to the body is through electrochemical signaling. It jumps back and forth. Very, very fast. Very rapid. All right, now over here, this is going to be done a little bit differently in this box. What I want to do in this box is, we're going to title this Functions of the Nervous System. Functions of the nervous system, in parentheses, student words. Okay, now what I want you to do is, I want you to quit watching my video in just a moment, and I want you to, if I were really cool, really techie, or maybe even not that techie, but techier than I am, I would just include a link for a video that I want you to watch that's separate from my video, but I'm not that cool. So I want you to go to Google, or whatever search engine you like, and Google prank face punch. That's an R. Prank face punch should do it. Okay, and there should be a really short video. It'll take you to make sure you're in the right place. Take you to a high school setting where there's a student who's interviewing another student. The student who's being interviewed, his name is Tyrone, and they're going to interview him about Halloween. Okay? That is what I want you to watch. And watch that video, and then 1, 2, 3. Whoops, I just bent my pen. 3 steps. 3 steps. I want you to write out the functions of the nervous system using that video as inspiration. What is going on inside Tyrone's brain? Very simply, very, simple, I guess, is just the best way I can say it. 1, 2, 3 steps that are happening in the nervous system. Okay, watch that video. It's very short. It's like 10, 20 seconds or something like that. And then tell me what's going on in Tyrone's brain. 1, 2, 3 steps. Okay, pause the video now and do that. Okay, if you followed the instructions, you went and watched that video, I hope that you found it to be interesting. Maybe you watched it a few times. It's kind of funny. So what was going on in Tyrone's brain there? In this box, we're going to write functions of the nervous system, teacher words. Okay, and we'll see how you did. 1, 2, 3. Functions of the nervous system in teacher words. So the first thing that happens is Tyrone's standing there unsuspecting in the hallway of his high school, and the other student asks him if he's going to go trick-or-treating. He says, probably not. Kind of getting too old for that, I guess. And then what happens? A monster jumps out of the trash, right? Tyrone has an excellent right cross and knocks that dude smooth out. So we want to know what's going on in Tyrone's brain, his nervous system. What's going on there in 3 steps? Hopefully this brought you back to theme 1 when we talked about control loops, feedback mechanisms. Okay, so the first thing that happens is Tyrone first has to receive some sensory input. I before E except after C, by the way. Receive sensory input. Okay, so his eyeballs picks up the information that some monster is jumping out of there, right? Some monster is jumping out of the trash can. And his eyes receive that information. Probably his ears received it. You know, he heard that trash can lid opening up, the kid bouncing up out of there. So here, this is where the monster jumps out. In our case, okay, could be anything. Okay, and then what happens? Now Tom's brain has got to process what's happening. It's got to process this. Oh my God, a monster just jumped out of the trash can at me. So this is what we call integration or processing. All right, so this is like, okay, what do I do about this? I was talking about trick-or-treating, and now I'm presented with this monster. My senses have told me that some crazy monster jumped out of a trash can at me. Well, what do I do? Okay, decision-making happens. All right, and so then there's output. Or response, right? And in this case, Tyrone demonstrates that he is down for the fight instead of the flight, right? We go back to this, our sympathetic division here. And Tyrone's going to fight, right? He throws a right cross, heck of a right cross, and knocks that dude clean out. And you can see Tyrone is pretty upset about knocking that dude out too. Okay, face punch in that case. Okay, so these are the 3 steps. No matter what's going on, whether a monster jumps out at you, maybe your tummy's grumbling because you're hungry, maybe it's time to wake up in the morning, you're not even thinking about it because sleep, maybe it's just time for your heart to beat. Whatever, some sort of sensory input sends to processing center where there is processing and decisions are made, and then an output is sent along an efferent pathway. So let's talk about that too. Of course, this is this signal is afferent pathway, and this one is efferent pathway. Remember, afferent is input, efferent is output. How did you do? Did you get the same words I did? You gonna go back and watch the video again? I suspect some of you are gonna go watch the video for the first time now. Silly geese. All right, so now we'll look at this box, our final box for this particular set of notes. We'll label this brain parts. This is different than the cortical regions and the lobes that we talked about in the last set of notes. If you take the brain and you bisect it on a mid-sagittal plane, you'll see that there are components inside there, largely a lot of them inside the brain stem. But we'll talk about the main parts of the brain here, and there are lots more. We'll just kind of narrow it down. We're going to write 8 things here, by the way. Those of you who need to plan out your handwriting, we're going to write 8 things with very simple definitions of their functions, okay? Like 2-3 word definitions of their functions. So the first one is called a cerebrum. You should already know what the cerebrum is. When you think about a human brain, a very intelligent brain like ours, you think of the cerebrum. This is the big brain. This is where processing happens. This is where integration happens. This is where the self lies. Okay. The second one we're going to talk about is the cerebellum. You should know about this one from the last set of notes as well. So the cerebellum is what you call the little brain. It's a more primitive part of the brain than the cerebrum, but it is responsible for balance and basic motor coordination. Remember last time I talked about athletes or musicians who repeat actions over and over again until they have that muscle memory down. And the cerebellum takes over a lot of that function, like walking. The other main components, there are really 3 main components of the brain, is the brain stem. And this one, as I've said more than once, is responsible for basic life functions. Heart rate, digestion, breathing, things like that. Basic life function. Really, this is all you need to actually live. Okay? Now, if you're being taken care of on a, someone's feeding you and clean your messes, you could survive. with no brain activity going on, right? No thoughts, like you're just a vegetable. But this is really all you need to live. Go look up Mike the Headless Chicken. That's crazy business. Okay, thalamus. So the rest of these parts that I'm going to write about are part of the inner brain or the midbrain or the brain stem. The thalamus is a data sorter. Think about all the pieces of data that are constantly coming into your body or to your brain all the time. Think about your vision. Not only what you're looking at, but peripheral vision that you ignore most of the time. You probably sitting down as you're writing these notes, and did you think about it before I said it, that the chair is pushing up into your butt? Did you think about it that wherever your limbs are bent, probably your clothing's a little bit tighter there? Maybe it's giving you a little pinch here and there. It's not painful. It's not even uncomfortable. Your brain just ignores it. All of us produce smells. Take a moment to be really quiet and think about, notice all the sounds in your room or wherever you are. Is there a heater or air conditioner blowing? Any sorts of electronics humming? Can you hear traffic outside? Maybe birds singing? Hopefully you hear birds singing. Millions and millions of pieces of data every moment coming into your brain, and most of it's not important for the moment. The thalamus sorts that stuff out into what's important and what's not important. 5 is our hypothalamus. Now the root hypo means below. So now we know the hypothalamus exists just below the thalamus. And we've talked about the hypothalamus before, way back again to theme 1. It's responsible for a lot of our homeostatic properties, monitoring your water levels, monitoring your temperature, things like that. So many different things it's responsible for, the hypothalamus. Here we're going to talk about the pituitary. Pituitary gland, remember from the last unit, or maybe you don't actually. Yeah, you do. You should know that it's divided into the anterior and posterior pituitary. And a lot of different glands produce hormones, but the pituitary, if you look back to that chart that I gave you on hormone production, the pituitary is a major hormone producer. It is in charge of a lot of things. Okay? It produces lots and lots of hormones that regulate lots and lots of things. The pituitary thinks it's in charge, but really the hypothalamus is in charge of the pituitary. So there you go. Okay, and then number 7 is cerebrospinal fluid. This is a watery fluid that surrounds your brain and surrounds the brain stem and surrounds the spine, and it provides cushion, like a watery substance that the brain and spinal cord float around in, so they don't make contact with the surrounding bones and damage them, because the brain is very, very delicate, very, very soft. And the last one we're going to write about is the corpus callosum. And the corpus callosum connects the right brain to the left brain, and vice versa. This is how they talk to each other, because they're actually quite separated. The cerebrum, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere really aren't connected except at the corpus callosum. This is where all of your nerves cross over. Remember, I've said before that the right side of the brain does control the left side of the body. The left side of the brain does control the right side of the body, and it's at the corpus callosum that all of those nerves cross over. Okay, so that's it. That's my set of notes on the nervous system. This is the last set of notes on theme 4. Test on Thursday. Let me know if you have questions.